Hello students. Today I'm going to talk to you about World War One. And World War One is or was one of those major conflicts that really changed the leadership of the United States in the areas of politics, military, and foreign policy. And that's a big word to say, foreign policy. World War One at the time was not called World War One. It was called the Great War. The reason why it was called the Great War was because so many countries were involved. So many countries from 6 continents. World War One lasted from 1914 to 1918, so that's a period of 4 years. And here are some pictures of people and maps and technology that are associated with World War One that I'm going to talk about more in detail later on. This slide shows a map of the countries and areas involved in World War One from 1914 to 1918. The green represents the Allied powers, and the orange represents the Central powers. So World War One was divided up into 2 major military alliances. As you can see, it stretched across every aspect of the globe. And one thing I want to point out is that during this time of World War One, well, actually before World War One, there was a lot of tension brewing in Europe. A lot of tensions brewing in Europe. There was a lot of competition over power, a lot of competition over land. A lot of countries like Great Britain and France and Germany and Austria-Hungary, they had colonies. They had other territories that they had under their grasp, under their control. So that's called imperialism. So I'm going to talk more about that later. And the gray represents neutrality. It means you don't take a side. You don't support the war, nor are you for the war. This page talks about the main reasons for fighting in Europe. I'm going to summarize these and not speak about them in detail. You have 4 main reasons, and there's an acronym that says MAIN. The first reason says militarism. What that means is that you build up your military to prepare for war, prepare to fight. And that's what a lot of countries in Europe did. Particularly Great Britain had a strong navy, had the strongest navy in the world. You have alliances. Alliances are friendships that you have with other countries that you can call on for need or help or assistance. Imperialism. Imperialism means that one country dominates another country to gain resources, to gain power, and just to gain control. And think about imperialism, that's what the United States engaged in after or during the Spanish-American War. We emerged as a world power, and we basically became an imperialistic power. And nationalism. Nationalism means that you have extreme pride and loyalty towards your country. Your country could do no wrong. Your country is better than another country. If anybody says to do something against your country, bam, bam, it's on. So these 4 main reasons were reasons why fighting took place in Europe during World War One. Now this page talks about the reasons why the United States became involved in World War One. And the United States became involved in World War One in 1917 based on these 4 major reasons. And you have to create some type of product to demonstrate knowledge of this. Well, the first reason was we were not able to remain neutral. And Americans looked at World War One at the beginning as a European problem. We don't have time for that. Woodrow Wilson ran on a campaign. One of his slogans was, "He kept us out of war," and that's what he ran. That's the slogan he ran on in 1916 when he ran for re-election for president. The second aspect of why the U.S. got involved in World War One was that America was tied to Great Britain politically and economically. So what that means is America was such a strong ally of Great Britain and vice versa, that we're going to help each other out when we're in need, politically and economically. We're going to trade, we're going to do commerce, we're going to sit down and talk about how the two countries can get along with each other, how they can help each other. The third reason, we were really angry about the Zimmerman telegram sent by Germany. And that was sent by Germany's Secretary of Defense called Arthur Zimmerman. And he sent it to Mexico, telling Mexico, hey, you need to side with us. You need to join the Central Powers in fighting the United States and her allies. And we're going to help you regain back those territories that you lost to the Americans during the Mexican-American War, like Texas and Oklahoma, Arizona, New Mexico, California. So American people said, we ain't got time for that. We're not gonna stand for that. So Woodrow Wilson had to say, we can't be neutral anymore. We can't stay on the sidelines anymore. We're going to have to directly get involved in this conflict. We're going to have to send our boys, we're going to have to send our doughboys abroad, over to Europe, to push back these Central Powers, led by Germany. Germany did the major work of the Central Powers, which are the bad guys. So that Zimmerman telegram was a nasty note. Sound like a nasty note that has to be sent home to your parents if you misbehave, talking about how bad you were in class. I won't do that. Number 4, the fourth reason was the sinking of the Lusitania due to the German submarine warfare. And the Lusitania was a British passenger ship where over 1,200 people died, including 128 Americans. So that's going to be something that is going to make us very angry, very mad, and we're going to want to retaliate. Number 1, American citizens died. There's a word called civilians, which means people who are innocent, people who are involved in the military or aren't in the military. They died by this submarine warfare caused by Germany, those bad Germans. They used a submarine, they shot torpedoes underwater to sink ships. That was one of their tactics. Here's the spark. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophia were assassinated. They were assassinated by a Serbian rebel who was angry about the fact that this man was going to become king of Austria-Hungary. And Austria-Hungary controlled cities in Serbia. And this guy didn't like that. So he took it upon himself to kill these two people. And this sparked war in Europe. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, and Serbia declared war on Austria-Hungary. Russia declared war on Austria-Hungary because they're friends with Serbia. So it's like if somebody makes fun of one of your friends or attacks one of your friends, you're going to stand up for them. You're going to come to their aid. And it's sort of like a bunch of people in the room fighting and arguing over each other. Arguing each other and hitting each other and throwing stuff. So there's a lot of convolution, a lot of chaos. This is a map that is an exercise that's based on the exercise that we're going to do. And I'm going to reflect this up on the smartboard because the smartboard is going to show color. What you can also basically do is you can go ahead and do this on your own. You can stop the video and answer these questions. I'm not going to read the questions to you. So you can do this while you're working inside of your packets. This page talks about the major alliances during World War I, 1914 and 1918. This war was divided up into 2 camps. The Allied powers consisted of the British Empire, France, Russia, which left in 1917 because there was an internal conflict, Serbia, Belgium, which was a small country in Western Europe, little baby country, in the United States in 1917. So always remember, when the United States entered the war, when the United States enters a war, the tide turns. There's always a victory. So when the United States enters a war, Russia left in 1917 because of the communist revolution. Well, actually, the Bolshevik revolution. So they say, you know, man, we got to bounce out. We got to take care of stuff at home. Y'all peeps got to handle it yourself. So we're gonna rush out of this war. So that's the Russian mindset. They later became the Soviet Union later on. We'll talk about that in another time in class. These are already filled in on your packet anyway. The Central Powers, which are the bad guys, consisted of the German Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is known as Turkey today. And Bulgaria is a small country in the Balkan Peninsula in southeastern Europe. So Austria-Hungary had an empire, so did Germany had an empire. And empire basically means that you control other areas, other countries under your control under one leader. That's what imperialism means. Here's some pictures that are associated with the reasons why the United States was propelled into World War I. The sinking of the Lusitania, which was a British passenger boat. It sunk off the coast of Ireland in the North Atlantic. A torpedo shot from a German U-boat sunk that, and 128 Americans died. Also, 1,200 people died in general. Here's some other pictures. And this is an example that you can use when you make your foldable. We couldn't stay neutral. We couldn't stay on the sidelines. We had to get involved. We were indirectly involved, but that nasty Zimmerman note and that sinking of that passenger boat with those civilians, we ain't got time for that. So we had to get involved. We had to get off the sidelines and get to work. Get to fighting. Bam, bam. It's on, Germany. Good German's a dead German. That's the mindset of a doughboy. And the doughboy was a name for an American soldier because they cleaned their belts from their uniforms with dough. And here's another detailed picture that pertains to why the United States got involved. United States and Great Britain had economic and political ties. Here's the American flag, Old Glory. And this flag let me go back, kids. Sorry about that. And this flag right here is the Union Jack, which is the flag of Great Britain. And here's a picture of Woodrow Wilson, our president at the time, meeting with Lloyd George, the Prime Minister of Great Britain. They're meeting and talk about, what our countries can do to help each other out. So we were BFFs with Great Britain. Here's that nasty note sent by Germany, the Zimmerman telegram note. It basically told Mexico that they could recapture lands that they had lost in the Mexican-American War. The British intercepted it and they translated it. So so we found you out. So that led us to take action. Talk about the fact that you need friends to have your back in Great Britain. I know it's ironic that Great Britain's their number one ally because we gained independence from them during the Revolutionary War in 1776. So we mended ties over those years and became great allies. We're still allies with Great Britain today. Thank God. Thank goodness. We need allies against terrorism. Here's a German U-boat, which is another reason why the U.S. got involved in unrestricted submarine warfare. Unrestricted means that you don't care. You don't care if it's a civilian boat. You don't care if it's a passenger boat. You look at them as an enemy, like somebody in combat or somebody in the military who's going against you. And they didn't care. The Germans violated the Sussex Pledge, which said that they wouldn't sink passenger ships and boats. And, their main focus at first was to prevent being defeated by the Allied powers. They didn't want the United States helping France and Russia and Great Britain and Belgium, which were the Allied powers. And it's neat, the interior of this submarine, so check that out. Really cool. This is about tanks, and I'm going to talk about tanks in another slide. So thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed this, and peace.